Hello, hello, hello. Good evening, everyone. How are you today? I hope you're having a good day. My name is Ivy, and today is a really exciting day. It is our launch. We are launching, or I am launching, my podcast, Parenting Made Simple. So, I am here with a very special guest whom I'll be bringing on very soon. But I thought I would just give you an idea of what Parenting Made Simple is all about. So, you're welcome to the podcast Parenting Made Simple. It is a podcast where we are going to be talking about all things parenting, and it is real parents sharing their real stories. We are not hiding anything, we're not glamorizing parenting. We are talking it as it is. Okay. So, this is your one stop show for, all things parenting, and it will be a pleasure to have you join me on this journey. Okay. My name, like I said, is Ivy Ngwa, and this is Parenting Made Simple. As the time goes on, we will be talking about, the challenges that parents face, the triumphs, the successes of what being a parent is all about. But most of all, we will be sharing heartfelt conversations. So if you are a parent, please share this. If you are not a parent and you're aspiring to become a parent, please share it. If you know a parent in your network, please share it with them, because it is by talking about these things that we learn, we relearn, we unlearn some of the things that we took along with us when we were children. Okay. So, without wasting much time, I am going to bring on my guest, and then we will introduce the show and talk about this episode. Okay. So, here we go. I will let her come in and introduce herself. Okay. Hey,
Hello.
calling. Hey, cheers up.
Hi, Ivy.
Hello.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you
you for
for joining me.
having me tonight. My name is Chiazom Obiagu. I'm a parent to two boys. My day job, I'm a corporate babe, as they say. So I'm a business manager with a government department. So that's it. And a mom to two kids. So yes, I'm excited to be here. I'm not an expert, but hopefully I will drop a few hints that I've learned along the way, by doing hands-on practice. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, cheers. Just give me a moment. Let me make sure that our viewers can see this, because
Okay.
sometimes it goes on and it's on private on my page, and it is on private. So let me make it public so that our viewers can see it.
Okay.
Okay, so it is public now. So we are not going to start again, because the guys on Instagram would have seen what we're talking about, and on YouTube as well. So
Okay.
we're just going to hope that those on Facebook would catch up much later. Okay,
Yeah.
so cheers and welcome, and thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for joining me today. I really do appreciate it. Um, we are going to delve straight into our conversation. Today, we are talking about parenting from the lens of managing conflict and disagreement. You would agree with me that even from the ages of zero, we're already disagreeing and conflicting with our children. Sometimes the conflict may come in full blown conflict. Sometimes it is a tantrum that a 2-year-old is throwing. Sometimes it could be, it could be a full blown conflict with a teenager. Okay. So when we talk about conflict management here and disagreement as well, it is ranging from little babies right through to sometimes it's even a baby not wanting to take the bottle. That is a disagreement in itself. How
Yeah.
do we manage that as parents? So that's what we're going to be kind of talking about. And like I
Yeah.
always say, it is about sharing your own experience, because every parent's experience is unique. And so, thank you so much, John, for joining. Please do remember to share the video with other people in your network, other parents in your network. I really do appreciate you joining us. So, Chiazam, tell us, when it
So
comes to
conflict resolution with my children. Well, the thing is, because I say I straddle between two cultures, being African, being a Nigerian. and now
Mm-hmm.
living in England, you find out that it's a bit different because judging or looking at where you come from, children
Mm.
are meant to be seen and not heard. And then you come
Okay.
over here and hear children have a lot of opinion. They want to disagree with you. They want to. So let's just say in the beginning, it was a bit tricky for me,
Mm-hmm.
because you look at your kids, not necessarily talking back at you, but challenging what you say, asking, well, why do I have to do this?
Yeah.
So my initial thought, when they say, oh, but mom, why do I have to do this? Is to say, well, because I said it, because I'm the mom.
I said so.
However, yeah, the first job I did here when I moved to England was I was a teacher. I taught different levels.
Mm.
Primary school, I tried a bit of secondary, that didn't work, and then preschool, and then you find out that you are expected to listen to to the children you're teaching. You
Mm.
do not shout at them, you do not yell at them. You know when they say something, you have to listen, and I'm gonna say that was very beneficial because then my kids were still very young. I had a 1 year old and a nearly 3 year old, and so here you are with 30 children who you couldn't yell at. You would have conversations with them, and that was so helpful. So when I let's just say when I got back home, I had to try it. I had to tell one of my sisters-in-law, one of my kids was throwing a tantrum, challenging something, and and that was the thing I learned as a teacher. You come down to their level depending on the height of your child. So you kneel down to their level, and at this time I'm talking about my child who was just over 1 year at the time. Come down to
Mm.
his level, look into his eye and say, what you're doing, I'm not happy about it. You know, um, why are you doing this? Can I? Because at the time he could speak maybe not very well, or he could
Mm.
still express himself. And I'm like, tell me what you need, use your words. You don't have to scream, you don't have to yell. And for the first time, he was calm. And I said
Oh.
to myself, yes, for the first time. And I remember then singing the good news, telling my friends, these children understand. They actually understand. But when they challenge us, or well, we call it challenges, but when they question our decisions, the first thing you want to do is that, well, because I said so, well, because I'm the mom. And then another thing I learned is, your kids are young, but they are going to grow. So you have to make it possible for them to come to you. If
Mm.
we tell ourselves the truth, a lot of us cannot, you know, get close to our parents. We still cannot tell them what we think. We still cannot tell them how we feel because of
Yeah.
our upbringing, because you know that you could not challenge your parents. So
Mm.
it's always something of a shock when they see the way generation of parents now parent, how they do the parenting calmer with their children. But I tend to say that I like it because I know that my kids can ask me. Sometimes I'm telling you, I have to bite my tongue so many times because naturally I just want to say, no, you should not do that. But when they are expressing themselves, when they're angry, saying, mom, but why should I do this? Because this, or because my friends this, I have to bite my tongue a few times. I have to think of a way to, first of all, I'm like, I'm thankful they can come to me. I'm thankful they can express themselves. Now, this is different from being disrespectful,
Mm.
you know. This is different from, because when you say conflict resolution, is that your child is not agreeing, two of you are not agreeing on something at the moment. And one thing
Yeah.
we should remember is that we are the adults. We should not throw tantrums like the children. So it's our responsibility to regulate the emotions going on at the time. You may
Mm.
not agree, you may not, what they're saying, you just want to yell, no, you should not do that. So what I do is I take a few deep breaths, bite my tongue, and then calmly explain to them why I think this is the best decision,
Mm.
or we will kind of agree on something. We negotiate
Yeah.
and say, okay, why don't we do it this way? Or why don't we do it this way? For example, let's look at going to the park. That's the simplest thing I want to use here. Let's say
Yeah.
going to the park, and they've been, how long are we going to stay in the park? 30 minutes. And then 25 minutes, and you're like, it's 5 minutes left, we're gonna go. And they're like, oh, can we stay a bit longer? Or how much longer? 30 minutes. You're like, oh no, that's too long. We're nearly 30 minutes in. You don't want to. And so you see one of the children getting angry, but we just got here. No, we didn't just get here. So one thing I do is to, have a plan in place before we get there. How long are we going to stay there. And while you're there, they get so carried away or get so into what they're doing that they want to stay longer. So you
Do
give
you
five,
communicate?
10 minutes more.
Sorry, cheers. I'm just to stop you 1 minute. Do you communicate that plan to them before you go to the park or whilst you're at the park?
So I started communicating to them before we go to the park. Because
Right.
one thing I've noticed with my children, I don't know with other children, is they want to know the details. They want to know the details. If I want to go pick them up from school and I say, so I have to tell them, oh, we're gonna stop over at the shop. I need to pick some things. In the past, I'll just pick them and then I drive straight to the shop. And they're
Yeah.
like, oh wow, we're here because we need to buy a few things. But you didn't tell us.
And tell
Of
us.
course, I want to say, why should I tell you? Like, we need these things at home. But
Mm,
this is why you have to respect your children. Respect isn't just for adults. You
yeah,
should not expect your children to respect you when you do not respect them. So
absolutely.
I have learned to communicate these things to them. And I'm also grateful that they can tell me how they feel. For example, when we travel and you want to take pictures, I want
Yeah,
to get them in pictures, but my kids tell me, but I don't want, oh, mom, you've been taking a lot of pictures. I don't want to be in the picture. Of course, you want to tell them, why not? But once they say, I don't want to be in the picture, you respect it. I know
absolutely.
this is something that is a bit difficult for a lot of us to understand. But what
Yeah.
it does is it builds, your children are comfortable around you. They
Mm,
can disagree with things with you respectfully. You
yeah.
know, you give them that space
Yeah.
to be
It,
safe.
it,
You're
it
their
does
safe
build
space. They can
character.
come to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it builds character. I do agree with you. There's a lot that we can learn in terms of communication. Communication is one of those things that helps us to be able to resolve conflicts when they happen. Notice I said
Mm.
when they happen because it's inevitable. We're
It
going to
will
have
happen.
with our children. And
It will
so
happen.
when you build that positive interaction and communication with them, when it happens, you can respectfully listen to one another without
Yeah.
yelling, without shouting. And I know that as an African parent, I think, when we think of you guys, you are Nigerian, I'm from Cameroon, and I don't think the cultures are that much different in terms of upbringing of children. As an African parent, it can be quite challenging not to yell at kids. However, um, my children sometimes challenge me, Mom, you don't have to raise your voice. And I understand that I don't have to raise my voice to pass my point across. I need to talk in a respectful way. And as soon as they pick me up on it, because, that's how I was brought up. Soon as they pick me up on it, I immediately say, I'm really sorry. I did not mean to raise my voice. Sometimes I do say, I'm just projecting because you were in the other room. I didn't mean to raise my voice. And that is really, really key because, in terms of if we build a good relationship now, we can fight
Mm.
better later. And it's not just for children, even in relationships as well. If I can have a good relationship with you, when we fight, we're going to fight well. Okay, we're not going to fight in a way that breaks the relationship. We're going to fight in a way that still respects that relationship between us. So just thinking about conflict resolution, because I know that sometimes we Africans tend to shout, but there's the other end of the spectrum as well, where parents can be quite passive when it comes to managing conflict sometimes. You find parents who are conflict avoidant, especially when the children start to become older. So you've got like maybe 14, 15, 16, 17-year olds who are quite sassy, and before you say one, they have said 20, and they are quite firm in their beliefs, because young people or teenagers are quite firm in their beliefs sometimes. And you find that sometimes parents just, avoid that conflict and not talk about it. They avoid challenging the children. They, if any problem comes up, they avoid conflict. I've seen that working in schools as well. Can I just stop and say hello to a few people who've joined us? Hi, so babes, hello, my darling. Thank you for joining. Hi, Linda. Thank you so much for joining us. Linda says communication is the key to a better communication. That's really good, Linda. Thank you. So, yes, I'm thinking about your parenting style. in terms of managing conflict? I know your children are still a bit younger, but we're
Yeah.
getting there. We're coming to those years where,
Oh
things
yeah.
are going to get heated. So, would you say, how do you deal with disagreements? How is your conflict management style? Would you say it is passive or it's aggressive or somewhere in between? If passive is 0 and aggressive is 10, where would you place your parenting style when it comes to managing conflict, really?
I want to say 6.57.
Okay.
I Yes. The thing is, my kids are, for example, at school, when they've done something wrong at school and
Hmm.
they're told, we're going to tell your mom, they are afraid.
Okay.
Now,
Why?
and I've had the head teacher say, oh, I'm really pleased that, when your kids, step out of line and we tell them, they're kind of afraid, say mom is going to be mad at us. But
Mm-hmm.
I also know there's a line, because while they were excited about that, some point they're like, why are they why are they afraid? Is there something? But the thing is, um, you cannot just be passive. You're the adult here. You cannot just let children have their way, because they're going to push boundaries. They want to see how far they can get. And thankfully they're still preteens now. But I've also seen things. I read, I see things, and I
Hmm.
just do not want to judge parents because I don't know what their situation is. But at the
Yeah.
same time, I do not have to learn from my mistakes. I've seen people making these mistakes. I
Hmm.
want to learn from their experiences. And so this is why I say I'm thankful that, my children can come to me. They can ask me the most random questions that, it shocks me, like, where did you hear that from? Where did you see that from?
Hmm.
Sometimes it's from friends, sometimes it's, something they've seen on television. Sometimes they can tell me, but all my friends do this. Why am I not allowed to do this? And I
Hmm.
tell them, it's because you're different. Every family does something differently. And this is what our family do. We do things differently. So I'm saying 6.57, they know that there are things they do, and mom is not going to be happy,
Hmm.
with them, because I'm the one who is mostly with them. So when you're
Yeah.
mostly with the children, you tend to butt heads with them more,
Yeah.
and then you
Absolutely.
see dad is the fun dad, dad does the nice things for them.
Oh,
So but
yeah.
I'm the one who is always there, and so there's going to be a bit more conflict because I'm the one they see all the time. But at the
Yeah.
same time, they know not to step out of line a lot.
What's
So,
the line?
and like I said, like being a teacher, working with children,
Yeah.
never smacked other people's children. I do not smack my kids. I do not spank
Hmm.
them. There
Hmm.
are other ways, tell them, you know, I do not appreciate this, or I'm going to take this away from you. Or maybe you go rest a little bit, you're not acting like you should,
Yeah.
or just take some time off. I don't want to speak now. We're going to speak about it later. Go take a rest. Go sleep. These are not traditional ways, but I've seen that you also have to understand your child. You
Hmm.
have to understand your child. Like every child has a way
Hmm.
you discipline them. You cannot discipline your children the same way if you have more than one. You have to understand the child to know. So, no, I'm not passive. No, we do not do passive, because then your child is going to step out of line. And one thing I like being very present in your child's life is that when you're told your child did something,
Hmm.
because you're present, you're going to know, yes, I know my child can do that. Or even if you're shocked, you'll be like, oh, I'm kind of surprised my child did that. I'm going to have
Yeah.
a talk with them. And then
Hmm.
you say, what's this I'm hearing? So, no, my parenting style is definitely not passive, but it's not aggressive. It's somewhere in between, balance. Yeah,
Great.
it's somewhere in
Fantastic.
between.
So you mentioned something, two things you mentioned. The first one
Hmm.
was, you mentioned about earlier when you were talking prior to now, you
Yeah.
mentioned about so emotional regulation, about regulating emotions. And I think one thing, coming from an African parent's perspective, still, one thing that we really struggle on is, regulating those emotions. Because I don't know about in my mother tongue, there are not, there are 5 or 6 main emotions that we're dealing with here. But in my mother tongue, I think there are just about 2 or 3 of them mentioned. So you find that as an African, I used to struggle a lot naming my emotions, talk less of regulating them. Because if I don't have it in my language, which is my first language, then I might not be able to know what that emotion really is.
Mm.
So, um, what is your own ability to manage, to self regulate, and remain calm? Because that is the crux of managing conflict with children in particular. Children will push your buttons, that's for sure. Can I just say hello, Barbara? Thank you for joining. Hi, Chef Susie. Thank you for joining. Please do share as you come in. Please do share. Um, this is our first episode of the podcast, Parenting Made Simple, and we are talking about all things parenting, sharing real stories from real parents, and the idea is to be able to bring parenting to light because our children are the future of tomorrow, whether we like it or not. And so when we parent well, it's not just going to be to our benefit, it's going to be to the benefit of the people that our children are going to be interacting with. I'm talking here thinking of life partners in the future. Days are going by so quick. I don't want someone's child to be burdened with a child that I parented, and I don't want another person's child to burden my own child. So that is why I am, big on parenting. So thank you so much for joining. Please do share. Okay, back to the question, Chiazon. So it's what is your ability to stay level-headed and calm in the face of conflict with your children? And here I'm talking about low ability being 0 and high ability being 10. So I'm able to stay zen in the face of conflict, that's being 10, you know, or I need to I just cannot contain that which is boiling inside of me, that's 0. Where would you place yourself?
I think on my own, I'm a pretty chill person.
Okay.
I've been in jobs where, it takes a lot for my feather to be ruffled.
Hmm.
And it doesn't mean the fact that that I'm calm on the surface. It doesn't mean my insides are not just doing 100 miles per hour. I'm trying to get myself together. So, and this is why I say, for the kids, when they're in that place where they're quite upset, where they're, I don't know if I'll say it's a distraction. I want to say, what's the matter? Tell me what it is. And sometimes I'm like, I cannot help you if you don't tell me how you're feeling, what you're doing. Sometimes that child just needs a hug. This is something a lot of parents do not do. Sometimes, even though I'm boiling, even though I want to say, just shh,
Yeah.
you're the adults. You cannot, if your child says something out of line, you cannot be the one to say, okay, then go do it. Because that's not fair on the child. This is a child. At this point, they do not know how to manage their emotions. So they need. So when that happens, like I said, there's so many times I bite my tongue. I don't want to say the first thing that comes to my head. So
Yeah.
when the child and I'm asking the question, okay, what is it? And let's just say my son is crying. Let's just say he's actually in tears, and I could just bring him together and just hold him.
Mm.
Just hold him. Just and I've seen sometimes, when I hug my boys, they rest on me, that they just want, that's all they need,
Yeah.
just hold them. And then so I can really regulate my emotions. And so even when I'm dealing with adults, even, when I had this job that I had to work with people and some people are coming in angry and, really yelling, and
Mm.
I'm staring at them and I'm like, can you tell me what it is? Let me know what is going on.
Mm.
One thing I've got commended from is that I do not raise my voice. Like I just, I just can't. It's stressful for me. I cannot imagine myself like raising my voice. It's gonna, you know, yeah,
You
it's gonna
know,
give me a
there's
headache.
something.
So yeah.
When you said about raising your voice, there's something that I noticed as when I was about 10 years ago. I used to be I right now I cannot remember how many times I raised my voice in a month. Maybe once, maybe twice. I can't remember because I rarely do as well. And that has come from, a place where I work with children as well, and I work with teenagers, and that is the age where they will push you and they'll try you and test you and push your buttons. But I notice that whenever I get really riled up and start raising my voice, I usually feel it in my throat here. I'll feel really dry in my throat, and I'll feel an ache in my throat. And
Mm.
so I never used to understand what was happening. But then when I became a bit more conscious, I noticed that that ache in my throat, I experience it only when I raise my voice a lot or I get really riled up or really angry. And so now I regulate my emotions a lot more. And then thinking back in retrospect, it was because I made that behavior about me. I did not see where that young person or that child was coming from. The moment they spoke rudely or out of line, or they pushed the boundaries or anything like that, I made it about me. How dare you treat me like that? And so when I started taking myself out of the equation and seeing from that child's perspective, I could understand them a bit more. I can stay calm whilst I try to understand them. And so I tend to, okay, now I understand what you're saying. I understand that you're really upset at the moment. And sometimes it's great to step away as a parent and say, I understand that you're upset. At this point in time, we cannot have this conversation. Let's both calm down and then we can have this conversation. And that is what I use a lot, especially in schools where, school in England, honestly, secondary school, okay, right. It's a different it's a different
Yeah,
story
I
right
tried it.
there.
I just couldn't. Yeah. Yeah,
So
before I left, I tried it. I couldn't.
yeah.
It's in as much as I actively do not raise my voice, I
Mm,
still want to say that there are sometimes my voice is higher than it usually is. And, my kids say, "Oh, mom, are you mad?" I'm like, "No, why?" They tell me, "Oh, but your voice is higher than it used to be." And I say, "Oh, I didn't know that." So the fact that I actively do not yell at them doesn't mean that sometimes they're not going to push your buttons to,
yeah,
raise
absolutely.
your voice. And this is why I say I'm thankful that they can ask me questions. I had an
Mm,
incident recently. I think my son forgot his glasses or his school bag. We had already driven up. I told him, "Oh, get it." I saw him pick it up and I had driven. And then just halfway, he says to me, "Oh,
mm.
mom, I don't have my school bag." And I said, "How do you mean?
Oh,
You just had it?" And he said, "I think I dropped it." I said, "Well, you're going to school." He said, "But you can just turn." No, I cannot just turn. I have to take you to school. And I was going into the office on the, it was one of the days I wasn't working from home. And
mm,
I kept on going. I wasn't yelling. I said, "How do you forget your school bag?" Yeah, it was his school bag. I said, "A farmer does not forget his tools, and I went on the African way. I wasn't yelling, but I went on and on saying, it's your responsibility. You shouldn't forget
yeah.
this. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do that." And then I dropped him off at school. I said, "Well, have fun learning without your school bag." But then I said, "Oh gosh." Then he went into school sad, of course. And I said,
Mm,
"Have a nice day. Love you." He didn't answer. So I had to drive home. I sent a message to my manager. "I'm going to be a bit late, blah, blah, blah."
mm.
Went home, brought his bag, dropped it at the reception. And then when I came to pick them up from school, of course, he was happy. And he said, "Mom, you brought my school bag." And I said, "Yeah." He said, "If you know you were going to bring it, why did you make a big deal out of it in the morning?" And of course, I didn't know what to say because, naturally I would have just said to him, "No, you don't tell me that. No, you should have." And I just said, "Yeah, but you shouldn't forget your bag." So it's, I don't want to say it's a double-edged sword, but I am grateful that they can tell me. Oh, and then I said, "You should have told me, can you bring it? You should have asked nicely." But then the brother said, "Yeah, but you went on and on and on. I don't think you gave him the space to tell you."
Yeah.
So I like that, they support each other. And I
Mm,
say this thing, they're quite very respectful. They're not teens yet, they're preteens. I don't know what will happen then, but I'm making this relationship, I'm
mm,
building this relationship. My
yeah.
parents, were very cool as well. Even now that I'm grown, my parents are my friends. They
mm,
didn't yell, they didn't smack me. So sometimes when I see things, I'm like, I cannot really relate. But
yeah,
being Africans, you still know that these things happen.
they do.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm pleased that they can do that. And fingers crossed. I don't know what will happen then, but we already have a system where they can communicate and tell me what they think. And if it becomes, too much, I can always ask for help. But so
Yeah.
far, so good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I really like that you're building that relationship now, because a lot of the behaviors and the culture, I call it the culture that you want in your household, is set when they are as young as between 0 and 5. 7,
Yeah.
you're pushing it a little bit. Okay.
Yeah.
7, you're pushing it. But between 0 to 5, that is when you set that culture. Can I just say hello to a few people? Hi, Bishop Kamara. Thank you for coming. Thank you so much. Hello, Emanuela. Thank you for stopping by. Please do not forget to share. Do remember to share the video so that other parents can also watch it. Remember, this is a podcast, our first ever episode of the podcast. I am really excited about this podcast, to be honest. First ever episode, and we're talking about managing conflict and disagreement with our children. There are a few comments in the comment section. I'm just going to read some of them. Linda says, true, working with kids helps us to regulate our emotions. Absolutely. Thank you, Linda. Linda is proposing that yoga helps in regulating emotions for adults. Bishop Kamara, for me, it was all about my children and they've grown up very well. Thank you so much. Um, thank you so much for joining in and sharing your own thoughts on parenting. Remember, it's not one size fits all. It is, something that you monitor, you change, you adapt as you go along. But I think the principles still stand. However, the methods to, parenting is what each person would adapt depending on their own situations. So that culture that you're building there, Chiazom, you wanted to say something. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I want to say it's a bit of a digression because there was something you said about limitations in language.
Yeah.
I went for a safeguarding training for a different organization,
Mm,
differently, but that is safe for sort of vulnerable adults. And
yeah.
there they are talking about different forms of abuse and all of that.
Chiazom, your volume
So
has just dropped. I'm not sure. I
okay,
think you're getting a phone call or something, but your volume has dropped.
how is it?
It's a bit better now. Carry on.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but the volume is quite low.
Oh gosh. Yeah. So, so yeah. So this call keeps coming. It's a different organization, a different meeting. So hopefully that goes off. But
Okay.
yeah. Is it
Okay.
better?
You're back on now. Yes. Oh, you're off again. Okay. Just say something. Let's hear. Maybe you're gonna come back on. Let's see.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Better.
back on now.
Better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're at that training and they were, support for vulnerable adults, but then it was
Yeah.
about abuse and all those kind of things. And then one thing you find out is that being Africans, our language is limited and you cannot address something without a name
Yeah.
if there's not a name for it in your language, because a lot of us, maybe those of us who are first generation, of
Mm,
immigrants in our families, we grew up at home and just came here when we were adults.
mm,
So we just have this language, and then you come here, and then there are so many other things to consider. You cannot address something you do not have a word for, and this is how I
absolutely.
saw how
Mm,
limiting our language is, and this is why people say, oh, do you even flog your kids? You should flog them. You should set them straight. But what about having a talk with them? And sometimes, kids, mine are young now. At some point, they're going to hide a few things. So you now have to listen to what they're not saying. So they
mm,
might be saying something, but their body language or their actions have said a different thing. So this is
mm,
why you need that. You need to be present. You need to know your children well enough to know that this is so out of character. What is going on with my child? Are they
yeah.
going to tell me? If they're not going to tell me, am I able to, decipher for myself what is going on with them?
Mm,
So yeah, so like I said, one good thing is that you do not have house helps, you do not have domestic servants to help with your children.
Mm.
You have to be present for them.
Yeah,
Even
absolutely.
when you're working and doing too many shifts and working, be present with them, have talks with them, let them know what they need to do and yeah,
Yeah,
just so you know
absolutely.
how to support your children better. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for, highlighting that. I think that's a really pertinent issue. Just before I go on that, let me say hello to a few people. Hi, Angel. Thank you so much. We look dapper. Oh, thank you so much. And Clifford, thank you for joining us. Chiazom's volume is all right now. Thank you. Linda, you're saying the kids can push our limits, but I love it because it can help them a lot in the future. Absolutely, Linda. We are our children's first football field. Let me just say that. Okay. If you're not into football, say handball field or volleyball field, we are their first practice ground. Okay. They learn negotiations from us. Like Chiazam was saying, she negotiates with her children about how much time to spend in the park. Could they spend 5 more minutes? Those are negotiation skills. They are going to take those skills into a boardroom. They learn how to be resilient from us. They learn how to be confident from us. So we are the first teachers. All parents are the first teachers of their kids. Between those ages of 0 to 5 or 0 to 10, those formative years of a child's life, you as the parent, you are their first teacher. Yes, they'll go to school. They'll learn maths and English and literature and geography and all of those things in school. But there is a culture that you set in your household that will take them for the rest of their lives. And even when they become rebellious teenagers or adults, they will remember those things. Those things always come back. Even after rebelling, those things will come back because it's in the nature of a teenager to, assert themselves. Even during those times, I see it as them trying to assert themselves. Even when they are doing that, it's just, yes, I'm not going to yell, but I will remind you of your boundaries. I will remind you that this is a line you do not cross. I will be assertive, yet I will not raise my voice because another thing about raising my voice for me, I see it like I value who I am so much. I value my mental health. I value me so much so that for me, raising my voice is going against things that I believe in. And it's not to say that I don't get angry and show my kids that I'm angry. Yes, I do. I tell them that, look, this thing that you did, it really angered me and I'm not happy about it. And sometimes one thing that would make a child think and think again is when you tell them that you're disappointed in them. It goes a long way than even raising your voice. Sometimes my students, they absolutely hate it when I say, when they're like, Miss, are you really angry now? I'm like, no, I'm not angry. I'm just really disappointed that you chose to use those words. And the moment you say that, you see their head drops. They lower their heads because when you tell a child that you're disappointed in their actions, it means there's something in them that it moves them more. If you just raise your voice, it doesn't because they can shout louder than you can. So what's the point? You know? Yeah, so I just thought, but then managing conflicts comes down to, are you able to emotionally regulate? Because the moment you're able to emotionally regulate, you take yourself out of that equation. It's not about you. It's not about you. It is about the child and what the child is feeling and going through at that point in time. They may choose to communicate that in a way that is not acceptable to your culture, your values in your household, which will then cause that conflict. But it's not about you as a parent. And another thing that I learned a long time ago that I did to my son, which he absolutely hated, was he did something, I was disappointed, or there was and then he spoke rudely, and then it resulted in, a back and forth. And immediately I stopped myself and I said, look, when you speak to me like this, I feel disrespected. Notice I'm not saying that he's disrespectful. I'm addressing the behavior and not the child. I feel disrespected. Is that what you intended to do? Did you intend to disrespect me then? And immediately the conversation was no, I did not intend to disrespect you. I'm sorry that you feel disrespected. I was just, and then he explained himself. So, language as well is something that is really key when you manage conflict in a household. Chiazom, you were going to say something.
Yeah, well, one thing I wanted to say is I'm sure we've heard this so many times when they say fill your cup so that when whatever because you pour out, if your cup is empty, there's actually nothing to pour out. But make
Mm,
sure your cup is full with very good things, because
yeah.
like I said, it could get a bit too uh too busy here, with jobs. You have to do all the things you have to do, you know everything around your children. And
Mm,
sometimes that could be a bit, and I don't mean just the moms, the dads as well. You see that your life revolves around, you cannot leave your child at home alone until, so
no.
wherever you're going, they have to go with you. And because of that, you cannot go to too many places,
Yeah.
or you just have to go, one partner has to go, and then the other one has to stay alone with the kids. Or if you're a single parent, so sometimes that could get a bit frustrating. You find out that you're living for your children and then there's nothing left for you. So
Yeah.
this is where you have to find out something that fills you up, be it
Absolutely.
friends, be it social gathering, be it the church. For some
Mm,
people, any place of worship is the social circle they can afford, be it exercises, walks in the evening. Do
mm,
something for yourself so that when you're resolving conflict with your children, or when you're trying to discipline them, you're not doing it from a place of frustration. You're not doing it from a place of, I've done everything for you and now there's nothing left for me. No,
mm,
you're doing it because you want your child to be better. And this also goes back to what you're saying, that sometimes when you raise your voice, you make it about yourself and not about the child.
mm,
So you have to make sure that you, while you're resolving this conflict, you really mean well for your child. You're
yeah.
not doing it from a place of, there's nothing left for me.
Mm.
I've given you everything. I've given you myself, and this is how you repay me.
You
No,
take
they
me.
didn't choose to come here. You
Yeah.
had them. So,
Yeah.
so this is it. Find something that will fill you up. And then another thing I've also seen in our communities, that sometimes when parents are going through stuff with their children, they
Mm,
keep it in. They do not ask for support. They do not ask for help until it's gone really bad. And then
yeah.
they're saying these things, this thing going on with their children, or issues they have with the council, or with things.
Or
And you're like,
sometimes social services even get involved
yeah,
before
you're like, how did you
it's
let it get to
help.
this point? Why did
Absolutely.
you not ask for support?
Mm,
You know, uh, it's the culture of secrecy, it's the culture of
it is.
nobody has to know.
And the
Yeah.
thing is, we think that we thrive in secrecy, but we don't. We don't.
No, we don't. No, we
Cannot
don't.
thrive in secrecy. Um,
Yeah.
and I suppose it's a culture of naming and shaming as well, because we're too worried that so and so is going to shame me because I'm struggling, and therefore I'm going to be secretive about it. But which one is better? Is it better to be talked about that you're seeking help, or is it better for your child to be taken over by social services? Which, we have to really think about, you know yeah, if they talk, so what? And I understand that sometimes it is because people are going to talk, but what is better? Is it better to be talked about, or is it better for your child to be taken away?
One thing I've also noticed is that when you share your problems with someone, at that point when you're talking, you gain some clarity, because for the
Absolutely.
first time, it's not in your head. It's not just
Yeah.
like a hamster on a wheel in your head
Mm.
going on and on. You're
Yeah.
speaking to someone, even when they've not said anything. The fact
Yeah.
that you're sharing with them, the fact that you're saying it out, you kind
Yeah.
of gain some clarity on how to handle those situations.
Mm.
So, speak to someone, find your tribe, find
Yeah.
someone, one, two, three people. They can go ahead and speak about you. That shouldn't be your problem. Remember, it's your child you're trying to support here.
Yeah.
It's your but at some point you're going to find the right people who are not going to speak about you in a way that when you hear about it, it will hurt you. But you're seeking help for your child. You're trying to how do I manage this? Remember, if it's your first time, if the child is not your first child, children are different. So you
Mm,
could think, oh, I have three. They didn't give me these challenges. Why is this one an issue for me? And so
yeah,
you have to find different tactics. You have to find different ways to deal with this particular child who has
mm,
come with their own challenges and all of that. So, yeah,
yeah. Thank you so much. I'm just gonna say, hey, Ogavik, how fun now? Thank you for coming. Please do share the video to other parents as well. Angel has raised something here in the comments. You know, people will share if they trust the community. What's the point talking if there's a history of no support? Absolutely, Angel. That's just what we're talking about. The community, we need to trust the community, but also parents have to do their diligence to go to places where they are supported. There is no point you staying in a place where you're not supported as a parent. If there is a support group going on in your city, I know that for us Africans, we tend to shy away from engaging in things like support groups that are, especially Africans in the diaspora, support groups and all of these peer support groups and, taught children's groups and parent and child play and stay and all of those. But if you engage with some of those, you might find that you can get support from there. Also, schools are a great place to find support for your child. Schools and for parents as well. Many schools are running parenting programs, many schools are running parent support groups, which are free for people to attend. If the worst comes to the worst, you have to go you if you have to go and pay maybe a parent, a counselor, maybe a parent coach, maybe a mentor. If you have to go and pay for that service, that is your child. Go and pay for that service so that the child is supported if the worst comes to the worst. For me, I do believe in, if my child is struggling and I know that so and so can help, and I have them, I will find the money. Not even I have the money, I'll find the money and pay, because in paying, I am saving that child from what, something that I might not have seen coming down the line. So we also have to start kind of shifting our mindset around what support is and where to get support and how support looks like as well. Okay, so cheers. I did promise you that we were going to be 45 minutes to an hour. We're
it's
kind
all
of,
right.
honestly, it's gone so quick. It's not an hour yet. But before we kind of wrap up, there's one thing I have to really emphasize here. Please do share the video. This is our first episode of the podcast. Um, we are committed. The more you share the video, the more we'll be kind of getting different guests and different people to come and talk and share their stories. Remember, it is real parents sharing real stories so that we can, grow together as parents. The name of the podcast, Parenting Made Simple, because we want to demystify parenting. It's not this mystical thing, it's not complicated. We just have to understand that there are certain principles that go with parenting. And if you apply those principles in your own way, then it is going to work. We are all going to raise great kids. Okay. So Angel is saying denial is the next one. The school will identify the need. One parent, usually the father or both, will deny there are any needs. Denial is only delaying the inevitable. I have had, at the very least, on my Facebook page, there are times when I go and talk about, special educational needs like autism, like dyslexia, and all of that. And at least every time I have one of those live shows that I talk about special educational needs, I have at least one or two parents in my inbox telling me, "Thank you for talking about this. I was in denial. I did not want my child. The school suggested it. I did not want it because I thought they were going to label my child. I did not want it. So I have stopped them from doing anything. I will reconsider." So things like this, talking about it like this, is helping some parents to see that it is not a taboo. Their child is not cursed. Every child is beautiful from God. That's what I believe. And they are here for a reason. Every child has a purpose for being here. They are your child. because there is something in you that needs that child, or they are going to develop something in you. So, parents who are living in denial, please listen to schools. You don't have to do what the school is saying. Try something new, but listen to them. Take it into consideration. My daughter, let me tell you a good example. My daughter, 2 years ago, she was struggling in school, and she was struggling with her self esteem. You know what young children are like. Sometimes they are very confident, other times they are not as confident. And during that time, she was really struggling. Lots and lots of tears in school, not engaging. The teacher picked it up and told me immediately. I asked the teacher, what can we do? The teacher said, there is a pilot, a mental health pilot that they are doing in the school. And if I want, he would recommend my daughter for it. I said, go away, straight away, please do recommend her for it. She was recommended. She went on that 8 week program where I had to go in with her once a week. Luckily, it was on my day off as well. I went in with her once a week. We sat there, we talked about the mental health person took her through that program for 8 weeks. After that, she was fine. Absolutely confident after that. I was just blown away. So, parents, please, if you if your child's teacher has raised something, do not do not be in denial. Please consider it. It's really important. Maju, thank you so much. Angel, thank you so much for raising that. That is really, really key. But
Can I add something to that?
yeah, sure.
Yeah. So like you said, because sometimes you find out that children are different. The way they behave at home is different from the way they behave at school.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they are better behaved at home because they know there are systems in place,
Mm-hmm.
or because the parents are at home are very strict. And sometimes they behave really badly at home because there's no system in place. They can get away with murder. And so when
Yeah,
they go to school, they are different. The teacher is telling you. And one of the perks of living in England, is the healthcare is free. So why would you object to that? If
exactly.
sometimes your child needs that extra support, we do not want to have labels. We don't want to hear that your child has this. But if your child is, even when you don't believe that, let them go for the assessment. Just be
Yeah,
open to whatever. Remember, it's your child we're talking about here. How can
absolutely.
they perform better? How can
Mm,
they be better than they already are? So when the
mm,
teachers point out something, ask them, so how do we support this child? Even when you're struggling, even when you find out that you're not getting complaints at school, but then your child is not behaving very well, to your standards at home. Go to school, speak to someone, speak to the head teacher, speak to
the
someone
teacher.
who takes care of your child, and then they'll find out any support
Yeah,
available, and then
yeah,
be open to go there and support your child. You want your child to be a responsible citizen. You do not want your child to cause problems in the future. You do not, because then it's really going to bite you if, when you should have let them go, giving them wings to fly, and then all these reports come, then you're asking yourself, where did I go wrong? How did I get it all wrong? So yeah, just be open to the support. Be open.
yeah,
It's free. It will take a while. The lines are so long. It will take a while, but the first step is saying, yes, I'm open to this, and then
yeah.
every other thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I do really agree with you that even if you're not hearing any news, no news does not mean good news when it comes to children. Okay. No news does not necessarily mean good news. If you don't hear anything from the teachers, if the teachers are not calling you to say this, that, or the other, either bad or good news, ask the teacher, how are they doing? Walk up to the teacher, maybe school drop off or pick up. Ask, how is he doing? How is she doing in class? Is there anything I can be doing at home to support them? It's really important when you have that 1 or 2 minute conversation with the teacher. So, Chiazon, before I let you go, there's one thing I really wanted to ask you. Every parent who's going to come on here, I am going to ask them to give me 3 words that describe their PMS. What is PMS? PMS is your parent mission statement. You know how if you are a soldier and you're going for battle or whatever, you have a mission, like you have a mission statement to take you along, or they give a mission statement to whoever to take along. So for me, when I was kind of thinking about parenting, I said, as a parent, there are certain words that really, you know, capture what my parenting style is or who I am as a parent. Let me not even talk about parenting style. There are certain words that capture who I am as a parent. If you could give three of those words, what are the three words for you? There might be many, but let's just hear three of them.
Three words that capture my parenting style. Is that
Yes. Three words that capture who you are as a parent.
three words?
Yes.
Loving,
Okay. Yeah.
kind.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm thinking of the third one. Loving, kind, and disciplined. Yeah,
Okay. Great. Thank
yeah,
you. So the three words that capture who you are as a parent: loving, kind, and disciplined.
yes,
Well, we are coming to the end right now. It's gone by so quick. I cannot believe it
yes.
that we've been here for about an hour now, but we're coming to the end of it. And thank you so much once again, Chiazam. Um, we are, personally, I am Ivy, and my guest today is Chiazom. If you would like to share your experiences of being a parent, please do send me a message. If you're on Facebook, send me a message. Most of you here are on Facebook. If you're on Instagram, send me a message as well. I am looking to talk to parents who are happy and willing to share to share their challenges, to share their triumphs, because it is in having those heartfelt conversations that we learn. Okay. And also, it is in sharing those challenges sometimes that when you say it out loud, you're like, oh, why was this such an issue for me, anyways? Sometimes it happens like that. So, without much ado, we have come to the end of this first episode, which I am really pleased about. Please do not forget to share it. I still urge you to share it so that other parents can hear these stories. These are really, really worthwhile conversations to have. And you take care of yourselves. Thank you, and bye for now. Ciao. I'll
Thank you
see
for
you.
having me. Thank you, Ivy. Yes,
You're welcome, Cheers. Thank you
yeah,
so much for coming. Those of you who
yeah.
are watching, see you in 2 weeks' time. This podcast happens every 2 weeks, same time, same day, every 2 weeks. Okay, so on a Sunday, and it is gonna happen in 2 weeks' time. Bye for now.
Bye.